Okay, here we go. So, I'm not sure who possibly finished it last night. What we're doing is going over it today. Why is my screen froze? There we go. Okay. So page 3, we left off on using proportions. And this is also from the last quiz, that content. So if you haven't taken the last quiz yet, because some of you have not, this would be a really good thing to review. Actually, this whole page 3 is on the last quiz. So you would want to use this to go back and study and use it as a note on your quiz. Okay, so let's look at these proportions. We want to set up a proportion to solve for the missing side. There are several ways to do that. We can do part to part, part to whole, etc. So since we're given the whole length, it might be in our best interest to use part to whole. So here we have the whole side, and here we have the whole side. This whole side, though, is, we'll call it X. I do have a portion of the side. I have this side, which also corresponds to that side. The key here is being consistent. If I'm going to use this part of the side, then I need to use its corresponding part over there. If I'm going to use the whole side here, I have to use the whole side there. So here's where it would be a good idea to use part to whole. Part to whole. So if I use 6 over X, what would the other side look like? Anybody?
6 over 5. Wait, 3 over 5.
Good. 3 over 5. Awesome. And you could have also done 3 over 5 and 6 over X, but we did that one. You could have done 3 over 6 and 5 over X. That would have worked too. So let's go ahead and cross multiply. So cross multiplying, you get 3x is equal to 30. And dividing by 3, we get x equals 10. Now there is another way you could have done this. And that is we could have found this missing part over here and used part to part. So if this is 5 and that's 3, how big is that?
2.
2. Okay, so that would be 2. And this over here, we do the biggest minus the smallest, so x minus 6 would be here. So we could have said, or we could have said 3 is to 6, as 2 is to x minus 6. Or we could have said 6 over x minus 6 equals 3 over 2. Either way, I mean, there's just so many different ways to do this. We could do part to whole, which is what we did here. Or we could do part to part, which is what we did here. Any questions on that? I mean, there's almost not a wrong way to do it. Okay, as long as you're consistent, there's no wrong way to do it. That's a nice part about it. Okay. So somebody unmute yourself and tell me, what fraction do you see we could use on number 29? We'll call this x.
4 over 6 and 10 over x.
Yep, good. So 4 over 6 and 10 over x. So what we're seeing here, people, is you can make this into your fraction bar right there. Top over bottom, top over bottom. The left triangle and the right triangle. Okay, and then the equals in the middle. So what we saw was 10 over x is equal to 4 over 6. And this, honestly, this is just a good way to visually see your problem. Okay. If you look at it, you're like, okay, well, I can do these numbers over each other and those numbers, and then I solve. So cross multiplying, we have 4x is equal to 60. And dividing both sides by 4, we get x equals 15. And Wes, I'm glad you were able to join us. We just started with these two problems down here. This is where we left off yesterday. Okay, so anybody still writing? Okay, last page. So again, we have more proportions. And the little notes that we write on here is good to have on your paper as well, because the extra notes that I gave you could still be part of the final. So if given the whole side, try part to whole. It just makes things a little bit easier because you already have the whole side, even if it was an X. But there's a tricky part to this, okay? If I'm going to use the whole, I have 20 and I have 35. But if I'm going to use part, I've got to use this part. But this part coincides with this part. And I don't have that part. It wasn't given to me. Am I able to find that value? What's the value?
Would it be 12?
It would be. Thank you. Okay. Because this is the whole side is 28. This portion is 16. That means the one that I was looking for has to be 12 because we subtract. Now I have enough to set up my problem. If I go part to whole, I can do 12 to 28 is equal to same corresponding part, x over 35. And then if I reduce this by 4s, I'd have 3 over 7 is equal to x over 35. And then again, we can cross multiply. So I'd have 7x is equal to 105. And then dividing both sides by 7, you get x equals 15. So put in the chat box, so number 31. Well, before I do that, we could have actually did part to part on here as well. If I called this 35 minus x, I could have said 12 to 16 and x over 35 minus x. So there's different ways, but I think we like the part to whole on this, but you're free to do it either way. Okay. So for number 31, go ahead and put in the chat box what the fractions would look like that you would use to set it up. And there's like 4 different fractions. So go ahead and put in the chat box what it would look like. Let's call this x. And Samantha, what would the other side look like? Okay. Hayden and Ace, what would the other side look like? Okay, good. I see it. Okay, good. Nice. Awesome. I think everybody's got it. And if you don't know, can you please put that in the chat box as well? Actually, there's a couple that flipped their other side. Okay, so let's go back and make sure that we've got that. A couple of you said x over 4, but if you do this as, if you use this as your division bar, and then there's an equals in the middle, it would actually literally look like 8 over 12 is equal to, okay, not x over 4, but if you start with the 8, you need to start with the 4. So a couple of you said x over 4, it needs to be 4 over x. That's the part to the consistency that's important. And then we can go ahead and cross multiply. I would normally reduce that, but because the numbers are a little smaller, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. 8x is equal to 48. And dividing both sides by 8, we get x equals 6. Now you can do top over bottom, top over bottom. You can do side over side. I'm going to go ahead and put an or just so if you need it, you've got it. But because I did see 2 people that did it the other way, you can do 4 over 8. So right over left. If you do right over left, you have to do right over left. So it'd be x over 12. And if you did it that way, if you'll notice, you still cross multiply and you get 8x is equal to 48. And you divide by 8, you still get x equals 6. So either way, you're going to get x equals 6. Okay. Any questions on the proportions? Okay. Now we're going to move to scale factor. Now, the next 2 little sections are not, we didn't include that in a quiz, but it will be on your final. It was the last thing that we talked about, was scale factor and find the missing side. Okay. So given that the pair of polygons are similar, we want to find the scale factor. We need to find the scale factor only, but they're asking us for the smaller figure to the larger. It means the smaller one has to go on top, the larger one has to go on the bottom. Okay, so the first thing that I would suggest you do is identify the smaller and the larger. Now, for some of you that were absent for this, let's talk about what is a scale factor. A scale factor called SF, no surprise, scale factor, is a comparison of lengths. Okay, you can do left over right, right over left, big over small, small over big, but unless they tell you how they want it, and they did, they said smaller to larger. Okay. So when you do a scale factor, you must include one number from each. One number from each. So we're going to pick the sides that have corresponding numbers. So let me ask you this. If I wanted to use the 28, it's sitting on top. Do I have the other top number on the large polygon?
No.
No. So I cannot use the 28 because I do not have its corresponding part. If I want to use this 25, which is on the right, I do not have the right side over here. So again, I can't use that one because they don't have the same part. So that leaves me with the left sides. And remember, I do want smaller over larger because they could have given me the larger first, and then I'd have to switch it. So the smaller over the larger, we're doing the left over left. So you'd have 20 over 25, That's a comparison of two lengths. But we're going to reduce that. We always simplify. Reducing by 4s, no, by 5s. We're going to do 4 over 5. And you're done. Okay. On, so those are the two that we ended up using. On number 33, go ahead and put in the chat box what the ratio would look like. And if you still don't know, be sure to tell me that as well. There's actually two different options that you have to make your fraction, but they reduce to the same thing. Think about it. Good. Nice. Okay, appreciate the I don't know. Good. If you put in an answer with the fractions, go ahead and reduce them and just write them on your paper. You need to put it in there. Okay. I don't have a response from everybody yet. Only like half of you. Come on. Let me know you're tracking with me, please. So if you're just joining us, I'm glad you made it, but we are continuing the review from yesterday. We're on number 33. Okay, good. Good. Okay. Thank you for the feedback. I appreciate the I don't knows. At least I know that you're tracking with me. And then I can explain it a little bit more. Okay, so for, I think almost everybody had it. I can use the top on this one and the top on this one. Or that would give me 20 over 24. All I'm doing is comparing two same sides. So the same side of my similar polygons, I have the top and I have the top. I'm going to write it as a fraction. Okay. I have the bottoms of my polygons. That could be another fraction. I do not, however, have both left sides. I don't have this one. So I cannot use that one. So I can have 20 over 24 or 35 over 42. They won't ask you to do both on a quiz, but you could use either one to get your simplified answer. And reducing this one by 4s and this one by 7, I would get 5 over 6. Okay. So if you said, I don't know, could you please tell me if you understand it better now? There's like 5 of you. Okay, good. Good. A few more. Okay, good. Notice, please notice that I could not use 20 over 35. Why not? Anybody have an idea why I couldn't use that?
because they're not like on the I don't know how to explain it, but like they're not the same size. I something like that.
Yeah, they're not the same side. And another way to say it, and then somebody said it in the chat box, is that it's not one from each figure. So this is only from the smaller, the 20 and the 35 is a top and a bottom. But I can't do a top and a bottom. I have to have a top and a top, or a bottom and a bottom. So they don't fit. They don't have the same side. I need one number from each. Any of those answers would have been fine. Okay? Sometimes it's hard to put it into words because you're just learning it yourself. So I understand that. So I appreciate the participation. Okay, so we're going to take that knowledge of the scale factor, and it's going to allow us to find the missing side. This is the only one that you don't have to have it as smaller to larger, but they didn't say. It didn't say how they wanted you to do it. So we can actually just use this as a proportion. So that means we could set it up like a scale factor, but we could also just set it up as a proportion. So it's going to be your choice. So let's look at it. We're going to do a few different ways of doing this. If I look at the scale factor, I would do like the right side and the right side. See, those correspond to each other. So I could go 10 over 25 is equal to, somebody tell me what the other side would look like.
14 over x.
14 over x, okay? Because they match, they correspond. I do this one, the bottom over bottom. Okay? So that's one way. Or I could go back to setting it up like it's a fraction. I could say 10 over 14 equals 25 over x. You go 10 over 14 is equal to 25 over x. So either way, you're going to get the same answer. So let's go ahead and reduce. We'll do this one. So dividing these by 5, we have 2 over 5 is equal to 14 over x. So now if I cross multiply, I would have 2x is equal to 70. And then dividing both sides by 2, we have x equals 35. I don't want to give you so many options that it's confusing. But since we're not asked for the scale factor, we can set it up like a scale factor problem, or we can set it up as just a proportion problem. So either one is fine. So go ahead and solve for number 35. You have a couple options. Solve for number 35 and put your answer in the chat box. This might take you a couple minutes. Okay. So Alex, now that you have the scale factor, go ahead and set it up to find the missing side. Some people already have, and their answer is correct. Good. Good. Octavia's got it. Good. Alyssa. Anna. This is how you're going to know if you know it or not. Okay. Right. Yeah, not the negative. Good. I'm not sure where we got the 10 and 30 and the other fraction. So some of you are off to a good start. You need to use your scale factor to actually solve for x. Good. Okay. So let's go through this. I'm going to write several of them that you could have used. We could have said 40 over 48 is equal to, so 40 over 48. What would the other side have to look like?
Thirty over 36.
Okay, that's if I want to find a scale factor. How about if I want to find x?
8. Wait, would it be x over 18?
Uh-huh, good. And Sophia had that in the chat box too. Good. That's right. So x over 18. Okay. So there's one way. What if I said 30 over 36? What, to find x, what would the other side have to look like?
X over 18.
It'd still be x over 18. Okay. So this is option number 2. What if I said option number 3, x over 30? What would the other side have to look like?
36 over 18.
Close.
Wait, 18 over 36.
Perfect. 18 over 36. Okay. So I did this and I didn't actually, yeah, I guess I did do that with last period. There's so many different ways to do this. I mean, I could have said 40 over x also and 48 over 18. That would have been the fourth one that we could have used. So either of these would be totally fine. And then when you cross multiply and divide, you do get 15. So here I could actually, so let me just solve it. This would be x over 30 equals 1/2. And cross multiply and get 2x equals 30 or x equals 15. But any of them that you chose should have given you x equals 15. Okay, last section, your congruent triangles. Now this goes back to assignment number 19 and 20 that some of you absolutely hated me for because I don't think some people ever quite understood what I was asking for. And I'm sorry. But there's a couple things we need to remember about congruent triangles. First of all, there are 5, 6 if you want to include not enough information. Okay, so there's side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side, HL for hypotenuse leg, and not enough information. Does anybody remember the 2 that we could not use? The 2 that we could not use.
SSA and AAA.
Good. SSA or ASS or AAA. Good. And that was actually one of your quiz questions from that section. So this is a no. This is like that stop sign. It's like, no, you can't use those. Okay. So the other thing to remember is anything additional. Let me go right over here. So additional. So these things are good to write down. Kind of a must if you're going to use this to review. So additional things. I know that's really mathematically, legal to mark on your picture. To mark. Okay. 1, there's 2 of them. There's only 2. Something about the side. What kind of side can I legally mark if it's not on my picture? Anybody remember?
Is it the angle?
Well, we can mark one kind of angle and one kind of side. So for the side, I can mark a shared side. Anybody remember the kind of angle that I can mark? It's okay, it's been a while. It would be the vertical angle. Okay. So these are the additional things that we can mark legally. If it's not one of those, we cannot mark it. If it's not one of those, we cannot mark it. That means we would be assuming something, and we cannot assume. These we can justify, because we always know that vertical angles are equal, and shared sides is a reflexive property. So yes, some people have already put the answer for number 36 in the chat box. So is a tick mark a side or an angle? Anybody?
A side?
Side. Okay. So this is a side. The arc marks are angles, and a different tick mark is a side. So we write it as we wrote it. So side, angle, side, or side, angle, side. Over here, it matches. So that would be my reason. And you're done. There's not anything mathematical to do on these. It's identifying the properties. Over here, the only thing we can identify is this side and this side, this side and this side. They have no shared side. By shared side, I mean something like 39. That's a shared side. They have no vertical angles, so they don't make an X. So we can't mark anything else. If we try to mark anything else, we're assuming something that we cannot legally do. Okay, so do I have enough information?
No.
No. Good. So this would be not enough info, not enough information. Okay. So put in the chat box what you think number 38 would be. Put in the chat box what you think number 38 would be. Good. Dana's got it. Melissa, good. Good. Yes, Alex. I like the question mark. Good. All right, got it. Octavia's got it. Good. Awesome. Okay. A few more. Good. Okay. Okay. So most people have it. There's a few that say, I don't know. Okay. So we're going to mark the type of things that we see. So an arc mark, okay, the rounded ones that are in the corners, those are angles. If they're in a corner, it's an angle. If it's along the side, it's a side. No surprise. And then this one's in a corner, that's an angle. So if you said side, 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 we don't actually have information on these other two sides. Okay, so it couldn't be that, but we do have a corner, a side, and a corner. So that would be an angle, side, angle. And it does match over here, angle, side, angle. So that would be my answer, angle, side, angle. Okay. So if you didn't get angle, side, angle, or you said, I don't know, can you tell me if you understand now? Did it make more sense? Okay, good. Okay. So what would number 39 be? Put it in the chat box. Some of you jumped all over that one. Good. Okay, good. I'm hoping that's a little bit easier. I'm not out to make this super complicated for your review quiz, honest. I'm like, can you identify basically what you're looking at? Okay. Okay. A few more. Put it in the chat box. Guys, this is the only way I know you're tracking with me. And if you don't know, you can put I don't know, but I'm only having about 10 people really participating, and there are 27 of you. Okay. Okay. Good. At least with the I don't know, I know that you're tracking with me. I think these are the same people that didn't like number 19, assignment number 20. So, okay. Yes, Alyssa. Okay, so if you said I don't know, okay, so let's look at all you really need to understand for this is the tick marks are sides and the arc marks are angles. So a tick mark is a side, a tick mark is a side. Tick mark is a side and a tick mark is a side. The only thing special about this one is that it has a shared side. This is a shared side. So much like if you live in an apartment or even like two bedrooms that share a wall, this is a side of one house or bedroom, and this is the side of another house or bedroom. Okay, so even though they're joined, like conjoined twins, they're two separate people, but they share something. Any way you want to think of it. Even though they share it, it's still an S, an S, and an S. So that would be your answer, SSS. So if you said, I'm not sure, or I don't know, can you tell me if that made more sense? And if it didn't, that's fine too. I just need to know that. Okay, good. Okay, awesome. It seems like it's clicking a little bit more. Okay, perfect. Okay, let's move to number 40. Okay, so marking what we can see. Always marking what you can see first. So here's an angle, there's an angle, there's an angle, there's an angle. But if you remember, this is a shared side. So we're gonna have a side for this triangle and a side for that triangle. Okay. And the people that put it in the chat box were correct. Okay, this is your ASA right there. ASA just kind of staring you down. ASA, and done. Okay. This is the last one on this page. I am going to draw one more to add to your collection here. Well, let's look at this one. Anytime you have a right angle, chances are it's going to be an HL. Okay, because you can only have an HL with the right triangle. HL only for a right triangle. I would say probably a good 75, 80% of the time it will be HL. But if you remember, if you don't have an H, then no HL. Okay. Obviously, because it has to have an H in it for it to be an HL. Well, you only have an H when you have a right triangle. So the way to figure it out if you have an H or not is to, remember what we were talking about yesterday, draw an arrow across from your right angle. That's where your H is going to be. So this is actually your shared side is actually an H, not just an S, but it's an H. And then if you have a right triangle, then you have an hypotenuse and you have legs. So yes, it is an HL. So you have probably a good 75% chance of getting it right. If on a right triangle, you'll put HL. It's like the teachers who tell you on a multiple choice test, if you don't know, to guess C, because statistically speaking, you have a better chance of getting it right if you guess C. Not on my test though. Okay, I will tell you that. I have designed the quizzes to be, or the last quiz to be primarily multiple choice, like A, B, C, D. There will be a few true, false. If you don't see the answer, try simplifying your answer to see if you get what might be on the quiz. If you don't see any of them, then go back and redo it. See what happens. Okay, last one. I'm going to have you draw it on here because I didn't have one. Okay, so this would be 42. Looks like a bow tie. I'm going to tell you that these sides are equal and ask what would be the reason for congruency. What would be a reason for congruency? Would it be HL, side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, side? Good. Some people have it in the chat box. Good. The more you're participating with this, I'm not calling people out, if you have a wrong answer, but I mean, this is like practice for game day. Okay? Few people are close, but not quite. Okay. So remember, this is a side, this is a side, that's a side, and that's a side. The only thing legally that we can mark on a picture would be a shared side, which looks more like this, or a vertical angle. Now remember, we talked about vertical angles yesterday. Vertical angles are across from each other and they make an X. So this would actually be an angle, okay, across from each other. So it wouldn't be side, side, side. And we do actually have enough information. And it happens to be side, angle, side. Okay. Side, angle, side. We're going to read it in the order that the letters are presented. So side, angle, side, not SSA, okay, or ASS, but the A is in between the two S's. That's important. The A is in between the two S's. This would be SAS. Okay. Any questions on those? Yes. I will shrink it out. Okay. Okay, so I've had a couple of people ask if they can take a picture of the whole page. So the answer is yes. Let me go ahead and zoom it out. And for those of you that might not have been here yesterday, I'm going to go ahead and put those pages up here also. If you have not taken the Ren Learn test, I'm going to have you do that now. So let me, this one there.